We wrote a very simple program in our last video, and today we will explain how a program is understood by our computer. But before that, let me just show you again how to create a project in C++. So open Code Blocks, navigate to Create a New Project, and choose Console Application. Next, if you want to, you can mark this box, and next time this box will not appear. But I don't mind it being there. So next, then choose our language. In our case, it'll be C++. Give your project a name. I'll call mine Basic Output. Change the folder if you wish to, but if you don't, just carry on and hit Next. Finish. And there we go. Sources main.c++. Alright, let's begin. Computers only understand machine language. What is machine language? It's a sequence of zeros and ones, sometimes called binary code. Now, where do we write our code? We can write code in any text editor that follows the rules of C++, the rules being the syntax, or rules of language. Every language has syntax. For example, in English, when you end a sentence, you end it with a full stop. If you're expressing emotion, you end it with an exclamation mark. If you're asking a question, you end it with a question mark, etc. Now, if you notice, our program extension is main.cpp. The extension is .cpp, which stands for C++. Now, before we go any further, let me show you how to document and describe your code. So, this is called a comment. You create it with 2 forward slashes. They're used to create a single line comment. Now, a comment is not active code, but rather a means to describe and document code. Again, we go to our next line and create a comment, typically written in your home language. So again, a comment is not active code, but rather a means to describe and document code, typically written in your home language. Now, we can create a multi-line comment using the forward slash, star operator, or the multiplication operator, denoting start. And whatever appears in the middle of start and end will be a comment. So whatever appears in between these two, all the space here, from here till here, will be a comment, including this, right? Now, let's begin documenting our code so we understand it a bit more. So the first thing we notice is hashtag include IOStream, which stands for hashtag include input output stream. So in C++, statements that begin with hashtag include are called preprocessor directives. Again, statements that begin with hashtag include are called preprocessor directives. These statements are processed by a program called a preprocessor. Just think about it, instead of creating a solution to a problem, we instead find a solution that's created by someone else, or a group of someone else. Example of this is IOStream, which enables us to get console output, console input, and console error. That's all we need to know. After processing preprocessor directives, we must make sure our program follows the correct rules of the language, again called syntax. The compiler will check the source program for errors, and if no errors are found, the program is translated into its machine code equivalent. Now, what is a source program? A source program is a program written in a high-level language. Now, the translated program, so assuming there's no errors, and if our program is translated to binary code or machine code, the translated program is now called object code. Programs we write are typically written in an IDE. As the one you see before you, Code Blocks is an IDE. The IDE is a program that contains many other programs that are useful in creating our own programs. If we will take advantage of code written by others in our own program, we search in a place called a library. A linker combines the object program with the programs from the library. We must now load the executable program to main memory for final execution. A program called a loader will accomplish this for us. The final step is build run or build and run. If you notice this, we have a build option, a run option, and a build and run option. So if you were to build it, and we wait, there we go. Now we run our program. And there we go, it's working. Or we could just hit run again. Now that it's been built, don't need to build it again, because we don't need to build it again, we can just hit run, or we can choose build and run in one option. There we go. So, as a beginner, your greatest source of errors will be breaking rules of language, i.e. syntax errors, which is true for every beginner. Write more code, review it, and run it. Now, let's make some errors on purpose and see how we can go about fixing them. The first thing we can do is just remove hashtag include IOStream, save our program, and now let's try build and run it. Right here, if you notice, cout was not declared in this scope, which is a nice way of saying we are trying to use the cout function right here, but there's no cout. So all we have to do is include IOStream. Now if we run it, our program will work. There we go, everything's working fine. The next line we notice is using namespace standard. This line is not needed. In fact, it has its advantages and disadvantages. But for our case, if we were to remove it, the only thing it changes is we now have to prefix some of our code with standard resolution scope operator. This is the resolution scope operator. So instead of cout, it's standard cout, standard endl. Now if we run our code again, everything still works. Whether you wish to use standard library, standard namespace or not, it's entirely up to you. It both has advantages and disadvantages, which we'll go over at a later time. But again, in our last video, I explained how do you change output. It's not that difficult. We just go here, and if we want to output some string, we just enclose it within 2 double quotation marks. And we type something in like, my name is Azura. We can also chain operations, so just create another opening tag using 2 left arrow signs. And again, whatever appears in between can be output to the screen. So output to the screen. Save our program, we build and run again. If our program changes, we build and run, we don't just run. And that's it.